Life and death, loss and gain. The afterlife and the tourist life meet together at the American Cemetery and Memorial. The Indiana University Footsteps of Ernie Pyle students traveled 4,000 miles over spring break. One of our primary goals? To visit this Normandy, France burial ground, home to 9,387 fallen American soldiers. After attending a course centered on journalist Ernie Pyle for 3 months, our class felt as though we were no longer strangers to understanding the waste of war, including the waste of life. This cocky attitude soon changed. We entered the cemetery. The graveyard stretched 172.5 acres, with rows of never-ending marble crosses and stars of David.
Hey, Star of David, Jewish American soldier.
The view silenced us. The whistling wind was replaced with the strong French voice of our tour guide, Anne-Sophie Durrell.
Built in 1947, the inauguration 1956.
Anne-Sophie was well read in World War II history, the perfect leader to educate us on the events of D-Day.
German bunker, machine gun, long-distance guns.
Durrell began the day by taking us to the Vallée, the Allied journalist headquarters, where Pyle wrote some of his most important war columns. This 11th century aged castle not only housed Ernie Pyle, but a plethora of war correspondents, including Walter Cronkite, Andy Rooney, and Ernest Hemingway, as it acted as the press camp of the American Army in 1944. Our voyage also led us to the American D-Day beaches themselves, Utah and Omaha, where the sand we now stand on once graced the stance of a soldier. We stroll across the beaches, finding it hard to believe death and destruction once filled this beautiful landscape.
If you have a look on your right, you can see a German bunker.
With each stop, Anne-Sophie relayed facts and figures to provide necessary context.
They were 22 years old, very young.
Bridging the gap between the past and present, we were given the gift of Anne-Sophie's intellect, helping us build a better understanding of history, stop by stop. At the American Cemetery, she told us the stories behind the tombstones.
Frederick was a technician, so he landed in the last stop.
The real-life soldiers that inspired the highly acclaimed film Saving Private Ryan, the Nyland brothers, laid to rest before us.
3 or 10 others.
4 brothers, Edward, Preston, Robert, and Frederick, from Tonawanda, New York, all serving in battle, ended up separated throughout the events leading up to D-Day. The lives of Robert and Preston were all lost in battle, and Edward was presumed missing in action. Both the movie and the real-life story behind Saving Private Ryan follows Frederick Fritz's journey to try to find his brothers, while regimental chaplain Father Francis Sampson was given the task by the War Department to locate Fritz and return him to the States under tragedy orders. Anne-Sophie also led us to the more unique plots of the American Cemetery, including the outlier grave of a woman lost in battle, Elizabeth Richardson.
It was Elizabeth Richardson. Where is she? She's here. You see Elizabeth Richardson?
An Indiana native working with the American Red Cross had her life cut short from an airplane crash brought on by heavy fog along the French sky. Plot by plot we followed, not even gracing the surface of all the stories of the characters who lay to rest here in Normandy. We could spend months or even years here, learning the tales of each soldier whose life expired at the hands of war. But in our short afternoon among the dead, what we all came to learn is what we were surrounded by. Heroes. Heroes whose stories deserve to be heard. The footsteps of Ernie Pyle students were educated by a field filled of death. By walking in the resting place of so many soldiers, the sights of cross after cross, a lesson resonated. Something that couldn't be taught in a classroom, an appreciation to the men and women whose lives no longer remain. What endures 70 plus years after their final breaths is an appreciation by their fellow American peers who thank, value, and remember the cost for freedom. The dead may be voiceless, but their memory speaks on.